Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Summer of CS. We're at 3 o'clock. We're really excited that you all are here with us this afternoon. My name is Ed Campos, and I have the distinct pleasure of guiding you through this Summer of CS kickoff event. During our time together today, we're going to hear from a variety of computer science experts, including some of our own California computer science students. Today, and in one of the 9 forthcoming Summer of CS workshops, you're going to be joined by over 200 teachers, counselors, and administrators from across California and help to grow this community. For the past 10 years, I've been teaching and supporting computer science education, but for a lot of those years, I felt I was on an island and I felt alone in my efforts. But the great thing is, with partners like the Computer Science Teachers Association, the Sacramento County Office of Education, and a network of county offices of education from across the state, I feel that we're building a strong community for computer science educators. Now, as we return to this Summer of CS, I think it's really fitting that the summer solstice is this Sunday, because what the summer solstice signifies is a celebration of the return to light, and it reminds us of the powerful light within each of us and the full potential of our individual light as well as our collective light. So with that said, if you haven't introduced yourself, we want to see the powerful light that's joining us. Please share your light, share your name, your organization, where you're joining us from, and let us know what you're excited about for this 2021 Summer of CS. So I see Mark from Portola Grove. Welcome. Bienvenidos. Mr. Rudy Escobar, good to see you 2 times in a week. That's a good week for me. From Stanislaus County representing. So if we know, Rudy, we got we're calling this the Summer of CS, pero sí es verano. If you see my artwork here in the background, yes, it is summer, and in the Central Valley, it's hot. It's hot where I'm at. We're going to keep it moving. I'm really excited and proud to be a part of this community and this collective light with you all. Thank you all for your commitment to broadening student participation in computer science throughout the state of California. And what I'd like to share with you is a few tips and tricks that can help you maximize your experience on this kickoff event platform that we call Hopin. First, you can navigate to a variety of the experiences using the icons located on the left side of your screen, as you see on the slide. If you have any questions about Hopin, please feel free to visit the CSTA Help Desk by clicking the Help Desk icon. Now, during our time together, you might also want to utilize a lot of Hopin's really cool messaging features. Be on the lookout for the event and breakout sessions chat. And as you meet new friends and reconnect with some previous friends using Hopin's networking feature, you might also send direct messages to stay connected. Lastly, please note that our event today is being recorded and is going to be published on the Summer of CS website. With that said, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Dave Gordon from the Sacramento County Office of Education. Please join me by greeting Mr. Gordon and welcoming him in the chat.
Thank you very much, Ed, for that kind introduction. And for the 3rd year in a row, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the Summer of CS, our Computer Science Professional Development Week. And since 2018, I've enjoyed meeting hundreds of teachers, counselors, and administrators who have participated in the Summer of CS. I used to welcome them in person, but now we're on Zoom and we're doing it virtually. But this year I'm in good company again. All of you are joined by educators from all across our state, from Modoc County in the north to San Diego County in the south, and all the counties in between. In Sacramento County, we've prioritized K-12 CS education as an opportunity to realize equity in our educational practice, because our students deserve, every one of them deserves, access to high quality, culturally responsive, and equity-minded CS education, and all means all. Here are some examples of what we've been doing locally. An elementary school teacher in the Elk Grove Unified School District, where I used to work, teaches CS because he believes the standards provide youth with the ability to express themselves creatively. A middle school teacher in Davis teaches CS because he believes access to CS education can prepare all students for college and career, so they can help diversify perspectives in the technology industry. And lastly, a high school teacher in Folsom teaches CS because she believes youth shouldn't just be consumers of technology, they should also be producers of technology. And as participants in our event today, I want you to consider this question. How do we continue the effort to expand access to high quality CS education for every student in our state? And I want to give a shout out to the many organizations, many of whom are members of our CS for CA coalition, are all working hard to answer that question. Teams like those at the Caper Center and UCLA Center X are advancing statewide CS advocacy and policy efforts. Code.org provides numerous programs and services to students, including high-quality, standards-aligned curriculum provided as a no-cost service. And the CDE Foundation and the Computer Science Teachers Association provides ongoing professional learning in CS. And the Small School Districts Association, led by my friend Tim Taylor, is conducting research on how to broaden student participation in CS through the lens of small and rural schools. And on that note, I'd like to celebrate the expertise and support of the other county offices of education who are taking the lead to help advance equity-minded CS education. My hat's off to the Santa Barbara County Office of Education, the Stanislaus County Office of Education, San Diego County Office of Education, and the Contra Costa County Office of Education. Many thanks to all of the organizations and to these county offices for sharing in this vision to expand K-12 computer science pathways in our great state. So everyone, once again, thank you for being here. The most important aspect of computer science is problem solving, an essential life skill. Thank you all for teaching our young people, our future leaders, to be problem solvers. And we will get there. We will have every young person in California with easy access to high quality CS programs. So thank you and enjoy your day today.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. We appreciate your light, your leadership, your collaboration, and your support to increase access to computer science education for all of our students. Since the summer of computer science, the summer of CS began in 2018, we've seen continued growth in CS offerings across the state. And I'm curious to learn about the current state of CS education in California, which is why I'm very excited to introduce our next presenters, the co-directors of the CS for CA Coalition, Drs. Allison Scott and Julie Flappin. Dr. Scott and Dr. Flappin have some exciting and current updates to share with us in their State of CS in California presentation. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Scott and Dr. Flappin.
Thank you so much, Ed. Hello, everyone. So excited to be here with you all for the Summer of CS kickoff, and really excited to present, as Ed just mentioned, some exciting updates from both on the data side and on the policy side around the state of computer science in California. And I'm joined today by my wonderful co-director, Julie Flappin. And we are, excited to present to you today. Next slide, please. So we most recently looked at data from the 2018-19 school year. Some of you might have heard us present in the past on the kind of landscape around computer science education in California. So we are excited to present some updated data on access, enrollment, and where we have seen some progress, as well as where we have additional work to do. So again, according to most recent data, currently in California, 42% of high schools are offering CS courses. And this is up from 40% 2 years ago. So we're making some incremental progress. And 72% of districts are now offering CS courses. In terms of the enrollment in computer science classes, 5% of all high school students were enrolled in CS in California. And this is an increase from 3% just 2 years ago. And 1% remained enrolled in AP computer science. And this is out of all of the high school students in California. But we know that disparities are still remain and are significant in terms of who enrolls in computer science and who has the opportunity to take computer science courses in their schools. Next slide, please. So again, when we look at these last 6 years, we see this really exciting overall enrollment trend, and enrollment has increased significantly, but Black and Native students specifically haven't experienced as much growth in enrollment. Similarly, girls have also not experienced as much growth in enrollment. And so despite a lot of momentum and some progress being made, we know that there are significant disparities that remain. Next slide, please. And so this, on the left side, we are actually previewing an updated version of our data tool, which I will drop in the chat for folks to access when it goes live. But this is just a quick breakdown of enrollment trends by race and by gender. And so you can see from the top red bars, there's still only about 30% of girls enrolling in computer science courses. There are still disparities by race, and you can kind of dig into more of that data through the data tool. And if you look on the right side, in terms of AP computer science course enrollment, we're still seeing a pretty flat trend for Black students specifically, some upward trends for Latinx students. So some really interesting data to dig into and a lot more work for us to do, but thanks to you all for all of your commitments. We have seen some progress, so we're excited to point that out. Next slide, please. And finally, in collaboration with our friends at the Computer Science Teachers Association, we recognize that one of the most pressing needs to truly expand equitable CS is to build a robust teacher pipeline. So we did a national survey and have some data on the California teacher workforce. So we know a couple things. One is that the CS teacher workforce is predominantly white, but there is a relatively equal gender split. 40% of teachers were early in their CS teaching career, and 25% either majored or minored in CS. So we're starting to learn a little bit more about who are the teachers, the amazing teachers in front of students teaching computer science, and also what are their needs. And several of them reported just the need for more professional learning opportunities, professional development, coaching, and opportunities to engage in culturally relevant practices to ensure equitable computer science in their classrooms. Next slide, please. So we know that we're at a pivotal moment where computational literacies are needed for all students across all grade levels. And so despite some of the progress that we're seeing, we are still pretty far away from having computer science access for all students in California. So there's still much work to be done. And I'd like to turn it over to my co-director and colleague, Julie, to talk about CS for CA, the coalition, exciting opportunities at the state level, and how you can become involved and be part of our movement for change. Julie.
Thank you so much, Allison, and thanks for giving us a preview of the updated data. I know everyone is very anxious to see it, and I think we all feel like everybody's been working so hard. We know we've made progress. We'd like to see more progress. We have a long way to go. We have a lot to celebrate, and we have a long way to go, but we think we're on the right path in having this multi-stakeholder coalition of educators, of industry, of higher ed, of researchers, of policy advocates, all working on increasing opportunities for teaching and learning, and specifically keeping a focus on making sure these opportunities are available for low-income students, students of color, and girls, and that we are working toward a goal that in the next 5 years, we want all schools to be able to offer computer science, and not only offer it, but that students are actually engaged and really see themselves as computer scientists and see the problem solving and the creative thinking and the possibilities to make positive change in their lives using computer science. And also so that students will graduate and feel more prepared and ready to pursue college, to pursue a career, to be engaged in the political process, to be engaged in their communities, and working towards social justice. Next slide, please. So here's a few of our partners, but this list is always growing, and if you'd like to join our coalition, we hope you will do so at our website, cs4ca.org. But just so you can see, we have many different perspectives represented within the coalition. And in the next slide, this really shares with you what our theory of action is. So all of our stakeholders, all of our partners are at the bottom circle of local implementation. And how do practitioners from all these different points of view, how do the practitioners inform policy at the state level? And then what is that reciprocal process that we can ensure that the policies and the structural changes that we're pursuing at the state actually support local implementation? So we're looking at issues around how do we identify equity gaps? So we're using the data tool that Allison and her colleagues are developing at Cape Poor Center so that we can be really precise about where are these equity gaps and what do we need to do to close them. How do we build in this multi-stakeholder approach? So we have higher ed represented, we have industry, we have K-12, and we're all sharing our perspectives and our vantage points to attack this challenge head on. How do we build capacity at the local level to be able to implement equitable computer science? So we're hoping through that reciprocal process that we're providing an opportunity to build a structure to scale and sustain equitable computer science. With the next slide, you'll see many of our partner states across the country. There are many CS4 states that are working on implementing computer science. We feel that our approach in California is really, we're not looking to check off all these policy wins. We're seeing this as a marathon. It is not a sprint. It's not something that we just check off the boxes of these policy wins, but how do we scaffold a structure that can really support and sustain high quality computer science education? So my kids are really into Legos, and I think about this structure of support. What do we need to scale and sustain equity in computer science? So some of the things that we've done are developed, and many of you who are listening have been instrumental in all of these different things. Developing computer science standards, advocating for hardware, software, and internet access, being part of the development of a California strategic implementation plan that guides all of the policy work that's going on in the state and has the buy-in from the State Board of Education, the governor, the school board. And so then we're also looking at how does computer science count toward graduation. So it's now a G, it's a C, it's a D, it counts as math, science, and elective. These are all ways that we can build in a structure where students see the value of taking computer science. We're also looking at building capacity of teachers, of building the, replacing the old computer concepts and application supplementary authorization and building in more computer science concepts in that. We are looking at developing teacher education programs, both pre-service and in-service, and really looking at this larger structure so that computer science isn't just another flavor of the day, top-down mandate that's unfunded, but how do we build a really cohesive structure to support all of you in your efforts to bring computer science to your students. The next slide goes through all of these different policy wins. You'll see we've been in this for quite a while. The foundation of our work is Jane Margolis and Joanna Good's book, Stuck in the Shallow End. And that has really provided a guiding light, kind of our true north, or actually our foundation of understanding how inequality gets reproduced and what we can do to interrupt it. So that has been our foundation, and that has led us to all of these other policy changes over the last 10 years or so. And with the next slide, many of you are saying, okay, what funding is available now? What can I access? There is COVID recovery relief dollars that are available to LEAs, and I encourage you to seek out those funds that are available, 50% now, 50% at the end of summer, and computer science can certainly count toward some of those funds and those grant opportunities. And then we've been working closely with our policy partners and in the governor's office, hoping to restore funding for the CS coordinator, which we hope will be included in the final budget, and the EWA grants, the Educator Workforce Investment Grants, to support professional learning, and basically to scale and sustain summers of CS like this, which we hope will happen. And then also significant funding to expand the supplementary authorization and provide incentive grants for teachers. So I noticed in the chat, some of you are pursuing that. You will hopefully, if this gets passed in the governor's budget, there may be $2,500 per teacher reimbursable expenses for that supplementary authorization. So that's what's available now. And then with the next slide, I'm happy to share with you what our policy priorities are in the coming year. And a lot of these ideas have come from our K-12 Teaching and Learning Group that's part of CS for CA. We've got the Teaching and Learning Working Group of Policy, Coalition, Research and Communications, and Higher Ed, all working together. And all of these policy priorities have come from many of your ideas in the field. So one is, how do we scale and sustain a summer of CS and provide a model that can be replicated in different regions? Right now, it's been awesome being able to do this online, but hopefully one day soon we'll be able to do it in person, and you will now be able to bring this to your local LEAs as well. And we're trying to get funding for that. Another policy priority is really supporting pre-service teacher education and in-service. We are hoping to establish a statewide computer science project along the same lines as the other subject matter projects, so that not only will we have a vehicle to provide support for teachers, ongoing support in computer science, but also there's a symbolic nature of having a computer science project that's recognized as a discipline in the same way that math and science and English and the other subjects are. The third policy priority is integrating college and career pathways, and also having that be part of the dashboard so that there will be an accountability mechanism woven in there. That hasn't happened yet, but that's one of our long-term goals. And then the fourth one, I know many of you have been asking me a lot about a single subject computer science teaching credential. This hasn't happened yet, but we are hoping to have legislation so that the CTC will review what the credentialing requirements are for computer science. And also, right now we know it's math and business and ITE. We also think now that computer science counts as a science, we're hoping that science teachers someday soon will also be authorized to teach computer science, and we also have the supplementary authorization. So these are what our policy priorities are moving forward. Would love to hear your input if you have other ideas or suggestions or comments about how best to do that. And we encourage you to get on board with our K-12 teaching and learning group if you have additional ideas to share. And with our next slide. So just as a last plug, we wanted to leave you with some action steps that you can take to increase equity in computer science in your class, in your district, in your LEA. So one is replicating Summer of CS. I talked about that. Two is analyzing CS education equity gaps in your school or district. And Allison, I think, put in the link that we don't have the data just yet, but it will be out soon so that you can actually look at schools in your region and see where those equity gaps are. The third is sometimes you don't always feel like you have agency, but you do, and you can take materials that we have shared through CS for CA to advocate and inform your own school board, instructional leaders, and also elected officials to express how much you care about computer science, why it's important, and why that should be built into your LCAPs. Number 4 is connect with parents and families. They are huge supporters of computer science. And it also helps to have families encourage students to take advantage of increased opportunities for computer science. And then the 5th is just stay connected and stay informed. And one way to do that is to subscribe to CS for CA. We have a newsletter. You can follow us on Twitter. And we hope to keep you informed and stay informed by you as well. And I just welcome all of you here for Summer of CS, and thank you so much. If you have questions, the last slide is our contact information, Allison's email, my email, and other contact. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Scott and Dr. Flappin. I know I can speak for everyone that we appreciate your light and that you bring and the work that you all do in this space to help us to be able to see more clearly the progress and celebrate the progress and the wins that we have had, but to realize the challenges that lie ahead and to be able to grapple with those. So we're really thankful for both of you being here, and we look forward to the amazing work that you continue to do. Thank you. So after hearing these messages, these powerful messages, we want, just like Dr. Flappin and Dr. Scott are bringing their light, you all are bringing your light. We need to make sure we take care of our own light and protect this energy. So we're going to take a little bit of a screen break. If you choose to do so, we have a nice option if you'd like to add a pin from where you're joining us from to this Padlet, because our goal here with Summer of CS, CS Verano, we're trying to scale computer science, and we would love to get a visual of where this work is happening and how we're really reaching throughout the state. So before you take a break and step away from the screen to give yourself some rest and give that light a little break, would you mind dropping in a pin where you're joining us from, and enjoy your break. We will see you back in a couple of minutes, I think. All right. Hey, welcome back, everyone. Because the Summer of CS workshops are going to be hosted virtually again this year, the other facilitators and I have planned for some engaging activities, asynchronous learning opportunities, and a lot of screen breaks, because Lord knows we need it after this year, right? So it's nice to try some of these experiences out today. As you've heard from Mr. Gordon, Drs. Flappin, and Dr. Scott, we have opportunity in California to provide students with high quality computer science education across the K-12 continuum. As we see with other academic and career subject areas, this can be accomplished through pathways. And with that said, I am very excited to introduce our keynote speaker, Jackie Smalls, the Chief Programs Officer at Code.org. Jackie took time out of her incredibly busy schedule to tell her story about educational pathways, provides us with great insight about how we can continue to build this California K-12 computer science pathway. Please join me in welcoming Jackie Smalls.
Thank you, Sacramento County Office of Education, for the invitation to kick off this summer's computer science workshops and speak to the topic of building California's equity-minded CS pathways. I'm Jackie Smalls, part of Code.org, and it's great to be back. Last year, I had the honor and privilege to participate on a panel to discuss equity in computer science with Jane Margolis. I think you would all agree, if you were to reflect on this past year, it has had its challenges, but it also has had its rewards. Today, I'd like to share my own personal experience in navigating challenging pathways that were not always equitable, but where I also found rewards. I attended South Carolina State University, a historical Black college in Orangeburg, South Carolina, almost 900 miles away from my home in New York. This is where I found my pathway to STEM. However, not on my own, but rather with the encouragement of my freshman biology professor and department chair, Dr. Judith Sally. Not until the later years of my life, I realized what a significant role she played. It was Dr. Sally, the second Black woman teacher I had in all of my 12 plus years of education, who encouraged me to change my major to biology, a decision which placed me on a path to a career in STEM, but not without its challenges. I found myself taking a minimum of 19 credit hours a semester, sometimes 21 credit hours, to meet the academic requirements as well as my scholarship ROTC requirements in order to graduate. And eventually I even became the cadet battalion commander of all cadets on campus. I had hard classes and grueling long days, but I was in a village full of support, and I was continually told I was part of a legacy. At that time, South Carolina State University produced the largest number of Black officers in the inventory, in the Army's inventory. When I graduated, I was commissioned as an Army officer. I'm going to show you, I think I'm covering up my very picture. Well, there you go. There you see me. So when I graduated, I was commissioned as an Army officer in environmental science. Again, a reward. But let me tell you, the harsh reality of the real world hit me once I stepped off that historical Black college campus, leaving my village and my bubble of comfort. I was prepared to lead, make hard decisions when it came to practice protecting soldiers from environmental diseases, licensed in industrial hygiene and water quality control with sophisticated Army-grade technology. However, I was not prepared to navigate a pathway of being one of 5 to 8 women in the entire Army specializing in environmental science. I often felt alone because I was usually the only woman, the only Black woman operating in a space dominated by men. And I was always seeking to earn respect. And I was looking for the support I had back on that college campus, my village, my bubble of comfort. I was in search of another Dr. Sally. I had to learn how to navigate a challenging path because I started so late in that path, where unfortunately, it still exists today, a challenging path of underrepresented women in the field of STEM, in the field of technology, in the field of computer science. It still exists today. This is why when I transitioned to education after serving 8.5 years in the Army, I wanted to be a Dr. Sally. That person encouraged a student at a much younger age who looked like me, like my 4 sisters, and helped put them on a pathway towards an equitable opportunity in STEM. Equity was part of my practice as a teacher and in my classroom of one of the largest public urban school districts in the United States. And then I transitioned to be a STEM administrator in DC public schools. And again, equity was at the core of my work, helping to build a STEM school from the ground up, but a STEM school that did not require an application process or lottery to attend, but open to all. I took on an equity mindset as a writer for the next generation science standards to ensure we develop standards based on equity and inclusion of all students, in particular though, students of color and young women that were again, underrepresented in science. Equity was the mission at Black Girls Code when I was the vice president of programs. helping to build a pathway for girls from ages 7 to 17, girls of color, to no longer be hidden figures in a place, to no longer be hidden figures in the tech field, rather to be at the forefront of innovation and secure a feeling of belonging in the tech field. Code.org's values and principles are centered on equity, and it guides my work as the Chief Programs Officer. Our mission is to ensure all students have access to computer science. We celebrate the journey that computer science education has taken, but we know now computer science is more important than ever. And despite the challenges that we had this past year, with schools closing, reopening, and hybrid, virtual, on campus, not on campus, in schools, out of schools, despite those challenges, our regional partners and facilitators trained over 4,000 elementary schools and elementary teachers and impacted over 144,000 students through our last summer's workshops. They also trained over 3,000 plus teachers in computer science discoveries and CS principles. This week, we celebrated reaching over 2 million teachers on our platform. So we've come a long way from the hour of code, but we still have much work to do. We still need to address equity. We still need to understand where's the stickiness of computer science in comparison to other core subjects. How are we building, like we're talking about today, really strong pathways from K to 12 in computer science? Excuse me. We're also considering the integration, especially at the elementary and middle school. Is that the stickiness that we can find within computer science? Assessments, teacher preparation, and of course, high school to university transitions, and workforce and real world relevance. And most of all, at the end of the day, most schools still do not teach computer science. So we're still challenged with and face the disparities in access to computer science education. It's persistent and it's tough to overcome despite our efforts. Those inequities often fall in lines of race and income. For example, the higher the population of students, as you can see here, the higher population of students from underrepresented groups are in schools that are less likely to offer computer science. It's a similar trend when it comes to income levels. But let's go back to the why and what we think should be true. Every student, every school should have the opportunity to learn computer science as part of the core K-12 education, not as a club, not as an after-school activity, but as a core K-12 education. Students should not only know how to use a cell phone, they should know how it works, what's inside of the computer that they're holding inside of their hand. We want to ensure that there is a secure foundation of just the simple fundamentals of computer science, that it should be at every level, from elementary school to middle school to high school, with more courses, more variety, and making it part of a requirement. We should make sure it's built into teacher education and preparation. Computer science, I can't say it enough, should be at a core subject alongside math, science, and ELA. And there should be a long-term unification of all computing under one roof. We should not have to compete. So how can we, right here, how can we build and expand CS pathways in California? Well, we have to consider the fact that pathways can come in many forms, be it introductory and deep exposure in being in elementary and middle schools as integrated computer science to high school, and perhaps in advanced CSA courses in preparation for college. We're not expecting that every student become a software engineer. However, we want to provide an equitable pathway, that mindset, that equitable pathway of opportunity for students to be able to create, communicate, collaborate, think critical, and become the next generation of global problem solvers. And we need to break down those barriers to prevent only certain students having those opportunities. My ask of you is to be that spark, that inspiration now not having a student wait to even consider about computer science in college, but be that inspiration now for students to go down a pathway you helped to create. Students should not have to wait 12 years to begin their journey and then try to figure out how to navigate it. So it's a simple call to action. As leaders in our field, we all have to take a part in this effort. So the call to action I'd like for all of us to consider is to create a vision for how we can create that CS pathway, utilizing the toolkit that we have available to us by CS for All's vision. Create space in your curriculum or school schedule for computer science. Get excited, get energized about it. Participate in professional learning experiences that will help you implement computer science, like computer science discoveries. Use the resources. There's so many resources that we have out there, in particular CS for All CA or CS for CA Data Tool and Equity Guide. And I want to leave you with this closing because I think it's so important, so paramount of what we're talking about today. And that is not only being an inspiration, but what are we doing with the changes and the things that we've learned throughout this past year? So the Resnick and Russ article from November really drives it home, and I want to leave you with this. We are at a moment of great opportunity, but also great challenge. Even as new technologies have flowed into schools, as new coding initiatives have been adopted, the core structures of most educational institutions have remained largely unchanged. If new technology, new coding initiatives are to live up to the promise, we must break down structural barriers in the educational system. These challenges and structures and mindsets will require efforts by many people, by who we have here today, but in different places and in many different levels. There are already teachers, such as you, schools, and even entire districts that are implementing new creative approaches to coding and learning. We need to build on these examples to support a broader change. No individual policy or individual school or individual technology can bring about change on its own. We need a movement in which all parts of the education ecosystem, educators, administrators, researchers, curriculum developer, writers, tool makers, policy makers, think about coding in new ways and think about learning in new ways. We were pushed to do that. So are we going to revert back to the ways in which we thought was the right way or the way that we had to learn in order to make sure students learned this year in the most challenging learning environment we probably have faced in decades? So we're at a crossroads. 10 years from now, we hope we can look back and report on a decade of educational change in which schools have provided students with time, space, and the support and encouragement at the earliest of age, not to where I had to wait until I entered into college to find that support and still had to figure it all out. And I also want to leave with a special call out and thank you to those 2 million teachers that are actually on the code.org platform. We have more than 100,000 teachers who have completed our professional development and workshops as well. And I applaud you for being here today, attending these summer workshops. And again, I thank you for the invitation to join you today, to share a little bit of my story, to hope to give you the encouragement that I know there's many and many Dr. Sallys out there just ready to encourage a student to even just consider the possibilities and learn from what they could take away from having an opportunity to have a CS education. So thank you for the invitation again to join you today, and have a great summer workshop.
Everybody, let's get into it. Get started.
I don't know about you guys. And I know this call to action, Jackie Smalls is speaking to the right group right here. I think with our collective light, this is the right audience to hear this message and receive it. Thank you so much, Jackie Smalls. We're really excited about the promise of computer science pathways. Your story is moving, and we are very fortunate that you're a leader in our CS education community. So as we keep it moving, we have an opportunity to hear more about the impact of equity-minded computer science pathways. And this one is coming directly from a source of light that we need to be looking at and listening to more often, some students. For the second year in a row, it's my pleasure to welcome one of my friends and colleagues, Heidi Baines of the Riverside County Office of Education. Heidi will be moderating a conversation with 5 amazing California students. Please join me in welcoming Heidi and the talented CS students to the stage.
Excited to talk to our students today and have you all hear from them. Not only have they all taken 1 or more computer science classes in California, are paying that knowledge forward and doing their learning in their computer science courses. So we'll get them up here on the stage and have a conversation. The next slide, and I'll introduce them as we gather them and get them up on stage. So we have Farah Yan and Chloe Yan joining us today. Farah is a rising high school senior from Burlingame. She's enthusiastic about making a positive impact in computer science education. Farah's co-founded CS Hands-On to empower the next generation of coders with a technology-free computer science curriculum. In her free time, she enjoys distance running and baking banana bread. Chloe Yan is a rising high school senior from Burlingame, also passionate about equitable computer science education and making the world a better place. She's the co-founder of CS Hands-On and aims to empower the next generation of coders through a technology-free computer science curriculum. In her spare time, she enjoys biking and listening to jazz music. Next up, I see they're starting to show up here on the screen. We have Tori Nance. And Tori is a recent graduate of Millikan High School in Long Beach. She's developed websites for different businesses and taught an introduction coding class to students through the AC Green Esports Academy. She plans to attend the Naval Academy Preparatory School in July and then attend the United States Naval Academy to study. And then we have Zubin and Tenzing Carvalho. Zubin and Tenzing are brothers who both attend the Western Center Academy in Hemet, California. Zubin team his first robotics team for the past 3 years and is doing science fairs since the 1st grade. He's programmed in Java, JavaScript, Python. Tenzing is an upcoming 8th grader who's also on the robotics team. I believe that's programs including Autodesk, Fusion. In February 2020, face shields, it grew. They created a shields for frontline workers, local area schools who help donate material and 1,000 safety glasses to frontline workers, teachers, farm workers, and all hours of 3D done to assemble and distribute the PPE. They've continued funds in donating 3D printers for schools in 3 school districts. Their group has won awards and recognition for the Red Cross Award. They've also held outreaches to local schools and communities about STEM. So welcome, students. We're so glad to have you here. There's Tenzing and Zubin. Is my sound cutting off? Is that what I'm seeing in the chat? Hopefully it's improved now. Welcome again. So let's go to the questions. It's better now? Okay. So our first question, and this is for all of you, mute and go ahead and answer that. And we'll start with Tori. Go ahead and introduce yourselves. Computer science, maybe something that you worked on recently or something you're working on now. Just give us a feel for your computer science interests and what you're working on.
Hi, my name is Tori Nance. As she stated, I just graduated from high school this past Tuesday, and my initial interest in computer science actually started the summer before my senior year of high school. I was interested in game design, so I started watching YouTube tutorials on developing a game, and eventually I started watching and following videos on web development and worked throughout the summer to create my own website called Tutors Away, which acted as a school-oriented social media site for high schoolers in Long Beach Unified School District to use. The most recent project I've completed was a game that I actually developed for my English class. Since I didn't actually get to finish my game from the past summer, I decided, why not give game design another try? So I watched a lot of YouTube videos and I developed my own interactive video game.
Excellent. Thank you, Tori. Farah.
Hello everyone, my name is Farah and I'm a rising high school senior from Burlingame. I discovered computer science through a Scratch summer camp in middle school, and ever since I loved imagination and creativity it allowed me to express. And so I'm excited to create a positive impact in computer science education. And last summer I co-founded CS Hands-On with my twin sister Chloe, and we worked to create unplugged computer science lessons to provide a more tangible and interactive resource for elementary school students.
Wonderful. Thank you, Farah. Zubin?
Hi, my name is Subin Karal, and I'm an upcoming junior at Western Center Academy. And so in computer science, I have an interest in 3D printing and computer-aided design for students. So for me, I've had a personal 3D printer for the past 5 years, and I've been using it for first robotics teams and science fair projects. And recently, one of my major projects were started with the pandemic last year in February, where we started 3D printing face shields for our family and friends, and we started to develop a project for our community, which grew to 18 local schools in 5 different school districts. And we asked our friends and robotics teams around social media to help, because we were getting hundreds of requests for PPE all over the country, as well as other PPE groups. And our interest in 3D printing wouldn't have happened without our teachers and principals who had classes in our middle school and high schools, which had intros to CAD, programming, engineering classes, and which include 3D printing and the beginning of robotics classes for programming. And we also have had combined middle. We also have a combined middle school and high school in our school, which for our first robotics teams. And we are fortunate that our principals and teachers encouraged individual projects, which allowed us to pursue our personal passions.
Thank you. Chloe.
Chloe, I'm a rising high school senior from Burlingame, and ever since I was introduced to computer science in 5th grade, I started to become a lot more interested, which inspired me to look for a way to advance equitable computer science education. And now I'm the co-founder, along with Farah, of CS Hands-On, where we create unplugged CS curriculum for students without internet access. And at CS Hands-On, we recently completed our CS Fundamentals curriculum, which has 16 fun lesson plans and activities.
All right, Tenzin.
Hello, I'm Tenzin Carvalho. So I was first introduced to computer science because our school was, we were grateful to our school as they had different courses in through code.org, Scratch, and all those things in basic computer science, as well as I also took some courses during the summer that had to do with Python and JavaScript and other computer science language. So me and my brother were also part of a robotics team through our school that combines middle and high school, as my brother said. And we were able to apply those skills we learned with 3D printing and computer-aided design during this course and apply it to our group, so-called Face for Frontline Workers, which we did during the pandemic.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Watching the chat as well.
Everyone
with have done.
So let's in computer science. A lot of you touched, especially talking about how you like think
It's helped you grow.
so? What are some things you can talk about that computer science has helped you with in your K-12 years or your high school or middle school years? And I'll open it to anybody that wants to answer. Go ahead and how does computer science help you grow?
Start off. Even though I've only been really involved in computer science for close to a year, I think it's helped a lot with my argumentative and logic skills because when I code, especially in database work, it's a lot of logical expressions to make sure that if a statement is met, then a certain outcome takes place. And I've been able to apply that to like my math classes, my English classes, and even a philosophy class that I took, because the same logical operators that are in HTML or even JavaScript and PHP are most likely used in critical thinking as well. So computer science has really helped me better understand complicated concepts in school.
Oh, that's a wonderful connection. Thank you. Yeah, great observation. I saw that, Lori, too. Yeah. Anyone else want to answer that one? How has it helped you grow?
Computer science, I feel like I've been able to grow into a sharper problem solver by practicing how to think more logically and also efficiently, and become more resilient by learning how to persevere, especially when I'm debugging code and it's getting frustrating, but I'm still having to push through. So overall, it's helped me shape into a better, stronger thinker and also a stronger learner.
Oh, awesome. Great answer, Chloe. I love, again, how that connects back to all the other subjects and how it can help you, right? So this next question is for all of you. We'll just kind of whip around like we did on the first question. Tell us why you think schools should have computer science pathways, and if you can mention what classes or pathways are available at your school or that you've been involved in, that'd be great for our audience to hear. So again, you know, what classes have you taken, and why should schools offer computer science? Let's start with Tenzing this time.
Yeah, so I think computer science and science in general is a very important thing to teach these kids as it's becoming more prevalent in people's daily lives and it's being applied to even more things now. So I think that's why it should be taught to kids because things like in the future it's being applied to the medical industry and even the basic tasks we can use the skills we learn in computer science.
Yeah, absolutely. Farah?
So I go to Burlingame High School and we have two computer science courses, CS Principles and APCSA. And I think schools should definitely include CS courses and pathways because it opens up so many opportunities for the future and also teaches students how to tackle problems and create solutions to them. And through learning CS, I've been able to break down larger problems into smaller parts and slowly working my way through each goal. And I think that thinking process is really practical for different real world problems, and everyone should be given the opportunity to practice that and use that mentality.
Yeah, what a wonderful life skill as well, to break down a larger problem into smaller problems, right, and solve those. Zubin?
For my school at Western Center Academy, we also have an AP Computer Science Principles and AP Computer Science A course, and that allows students to learn the fundamentals of programming and computers, and apply that to, and with that they're able to apply it to larger projects such as programming robots or creating a sophisticated program that will allow a for databases, and also especially at our middle school, we also have code.org programs and Scratch programs, which allow students to create fun interactive games, helping with their critical thinking and their creativity.
Thank you, Zubin. Chloe, I think we heard the list of courses from Farah, but why should schools offer computer science?
I think computer science is really important in schools because it helps students grow into stronger thinkers or problem solvers, and having CS courses will really teach students how to approach problems in a different way and also find solutions more creatively. And CS pathways provide a very clear route for students who are interested in CS to follow, and it makes it a lot less intimidating to pursue computer science since it's a subject that has so many branches and can definitely be overwhelming at first. But with a pathway, it's a lot easier to envision yourself actually pursuing CS as a career.
Oh, excellent point. Yeah. Thank you, Chloe. And Tori.
I believe my school has about 1 or 2 computer science courses, but I wasn't able to take any of them since it's usually for people in a specific technology pathway. But I think schools should have computer science courses and pathways because school in general should be a place where a student is exposed to all sorts of courses and helps students more easily be able to see if a career is what they want in the future. Additionally, computer science courses are beneficial to students even if they don't want to take that career path. Having computer science courses will strengthen a student's way of thinking, and pretty much every career an individual is going to need logic and be able to problem solve. So those skills are heavily strengthened in computer science and will help students in the long run.
Oh, thank you, Tori. And I love how you connected that to what Jackie Smalls was saying in her talk about, sometimes kids can't take classes because they're part of a specific track, right? And so it's not even an option for them. Yeah, great point. So we want to make sure we leave time for you to hear more from these students because they're all going to be here. So I'm going to hand the stage back over to Ed, but I want to thank you guys so much for giving your thoughts and your opinions on computer science. Hearing from you is so very powerful, and I know with all of the things that you students have been doing, and as is everyone in the chat, but I'm going to hand it back over to Ed. Thank you so much, students, for being here and being part of this event.
Thank you, Heidi. And thank you especially, Chloe, Farah, Tori, Zubin, and Tenzing. We appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules and summer vacation to share some of your amazing insight. And I know I'm going to speak for the group again and the audience, say like I'm super inspired and I feel really at peace with how the future is in some very talented young people's hands. So with that said, this concludes our main session at the kickoff event. Folks in the chat, please show your thanks and gratitude for these amazing students that I know you have been sharing that, but please keep that love going. Up next, we have 2 breakout sessions, including the Student Standards Showcase and Meet Your Facilitator. But first, it's time to take a little bit of care of ourselves and grab another quick brain break, stretch break. Take a few minutes to reflect and rejuvenate. Go grab that water. But before you step away from the screen, and we're going to be back at 4:07 is when the breakouts will start. So you got a couple minutes. If you want to drop in the chat, please share where are you taking your summer siesta this summer. And we'll see you at 4:07. We're going to play a little bit of music before we groove on to our next